All right, I've got a special guest, Paul Sanneman, who's going to help us learn how recruitment can work for plumbers, because this is something you all are struggling with at some point in your business growth, and I can't wait to talk to him about it. Let's go. Okay, so Paul, if you could give us a little bit of stage setting, table dressing of how did you get into this? Like, and what is it?
I guess why should anybody want to listen to me, right?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Okay. So I've been coaching for 40 years, makes me an old guy. I've worked with 2,000 or 3,000 clients, a lot of them plumbers. So I've learned what works and doesn't work. And about 5 years ago, my biggest problem was I could grow a business, but they couldn't find the people. It doesn't do any good to grow a business if you can't find the people, right? So literally, I started a recruiting company in my garage with a guy. And now we have 30 plus people on the team. We go post 300 to 400 jobs a day. We go to 2,000 or 3,000 resumes a week. The last couple thousand people we hired in the US and Canada, like 95% of them worked out. So I learned how to do this and really make it work. I worked with a lot of plumbing companies. So I actually know how to find really good people.
Okay. So yeah, because a lot of times when I'm talking to plumbers, they're in two camps. They either need customers or they need plumbers. And I feel like both are marketing problems, right? A lot of agencies help find the customers, but there's far fewer out there who will actually try and find the plumber. So tell you what is it that you typically look for when trying to help somebody?
Well, first place, let me tell you some myths that get in the way of people hiring, all right? I can go through this really quick. The first one is, only recruit when you need somebody. That is not true. You should be recruiting all the time, all right? And that's one thing that gets in the way. There's another myth that gets in the way, which is employees are expensive. You can't make any money without employees. So don't sweat that. Hire the right people. The other one is we can do it ourselves. Not true. The fact is you probably pour out, you don't fix your own car, you don't do your own books, you shouldn't do your own recruiting because you're probably not any good at it. That's why people do their own plumbing. Next, you have to find people in the construction industry. Now, if you want a plumber, yeah, but if you want an admin person, you can look out of the industry. I've hired some killer, literally wedding planners that have been amazing jobs at running offices because they know how to get a bunch of flaky people together and make it all work. The other one is hire fast, fire slow. Bad idea. Because anybody you wouldn't rehire right now, you should fire. They kill organizations. And just when you think about that, listen to this podcast. If there's anybody you wouldn't rehire, I would fire them immediately. I'll show you how to do that. Secondly, if there's anybody when the phone rings, you go, oh my God, it's John. I would get rid of him because what will happen is those people will kill your organization. So you hire slow, always be recruiting, and then you fire fast when a person isn't working out because it'll kill you. The last one, recruiting is not a project. It's an ongoing process. You need to be doing it all the time. So I'm going to tell you what that process looks like. I figured out the formula. I can show you how to do it. We can do it for you probably cheaper than you're going to do yourself, but I'll show you what it takes, okay?
Yeah, run us through it because...
So first thing you have to do is you got to write a killer job ad. Now, this is an ad. This is not a job description, all right? So, or your new best friend, ChatGPT. I'm doing this in real time. I haven't done it before, so let's give it a shot, all right? I'll share my screen. I'm going to go on ChatGPT. You probably all have used ChatGPT. If you haven't, you should. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to say, let's try it out here. See what happens. I'm a $2 million plumbing service company in Kansas. I need to find a plumber and I need to find an office manager. Can you please write me an ad for a plumber and write me an ad for an office manager and do a great job? You have a background in HR. You're the world's best copywriter. I want an ad that's going to get them to quit their job and come to work for me. I know you can do it.
I love it. You're steering it. That's what a lot of people don't realize with ChatGPT is garbage in, garbage out, but you told it what you're looking for.
So first you got to write a killer ad and AI can help you do that. All right.
So would you recommend that people take this and then go and make their revisions or just post it blind?
Well, they can make their revisions, but it's a great place to start, right?
Yeah.
So first in writing a killer job ad, the next thing is where do you post it? So I'm going to say, I would like you to tell me every place I can post this ad, includes all the job boards, any place that anybody is going to see this, make me an entire list of all the places I should post this and don't leave anything out.
Yeah, of course, Indeed is number one.
So you need to post these ads in all these places. Now, unless you can automate this, this is going to take you a while.
Even with delegation, it'll suck up an assistant's time.
Literally, we can do it in 3 minutes with our applicant tracking system. It's going to take you hours and hours. But this is where you need to post it, right? Then I would say the next thing is I would say you got to respond when people apply in real time. It takes us an average of 300 applicants to find one person. The last 1,000 people we hired a year, it took us 300,000 applications to find them. So it's about 300 to 1, and you got to respond in real time. That's not an easy task, but you need to do it if you want to find good people, because people have a very short shelf life. They're going through Indeed, like going apply, 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 apply. And if you don't get back to them in real time and pursue it, you're in trouble. All right.
I'm sorry. Like, do you find that varies from region to region around the US?
Well, if in the middle of nowhere, it's a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're in the middle of, we've got clients in the middle of nowhere in Canada, it's hard. Or if you're in, you know, someplace in the middle of Arkansas, Mountain Home, Arkansas, there's no town for other 100 miles in direction, it's hard. All right.
Yep.
And then if you might want to do is you might say, okay, now just for fun, let's have fun here. I'm going to say, please develop for me 3 KPIs for the plumber and the office manager. I want 3 behavioral and I want 3 performance. You are an expert in HR. You've done plumbing forever and you're a great copywriter. Make sure these KPIs are great.
You really got to talk up the Chat GPT bot.
KPIs are great.
You're amazing at this.
All right. It's a person, you know, it's like intelligent. He wants to feel good, right? How long would it take you to do this manually, Tyler?
Oh, an incredible amount of time. Like,
right?
And arguably, these are things that people know they should be structured for, but they don't take the time to even try and do it through ChatGPT. Like, honestly, most of the companies that I talk to, they know that they should be measuring via KPIs, but they don't do the research to try and go find out what those KPIs could be.
And this is an easy way to do it. If you don't like them, you can change them. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to say, just for fun, you are an HR professional, the best in the industry. I would like you to develop a 3-month onboarding plan for each of these positions and give me a week by week what they need to do. Don't leave out anything.
So would you say that, like, these kinds of things, 'cause there's a lot of structure that you're asking it to build for you. How often do you find that contractors, even outside of plumbers, are thinking about introducing this structure when they're hiring?
No offense, they usually suck at recruiting. That's why I'm in business. I mean,
Yeah, we're both in the service businesses, so.
Right. And so it can do all this. I'm just saying, these are some things, if everybody has ChatGPT 4, it will do all this stuff for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other thing you need to do, so now that you've got all this stuff, you need to have I think, a skilled assessment, right? So let me show you our assessment, just because people have no idea what assessments are. So I'm going to go to here, all right? And I'm going to show you our assessment just to give you an idea, okay? So here's an assessment. This is our applicant tracking system. This is, you know, something we developed. Everything comes into the ATS. We search the databases, we get that, we look it all up, and then we have assessments. This is what an assessment looks like, because a lot of plumbers don't have a clue what an assessment is, right? And so we have 40 different assessments, or depending on the position, whether it's a plumber, an electrician, or you name it, we have an assessment for it. But this is the kind of information you get out of an assessment, because a lot of people don't understand this. So I'm going to show you, this is our assessment, but you get an idea how it works, okay? So here we go, open the report. I mean, Tyler, I'll know more about you than your mom if you take this thing, right? Now, admittedly, we have people on staff just getting people to take this, because it's not easy.
And are people, like, so this is the assessment that you send out to them after a reply, or like, where would the assessments come in?
Okay, what happens is once they apply, depending on it, we can send the assessment to it. If it's a plumber, we probably got to call them to get him to take it. We'll eventually get him to do it. If you know, that's our expertise. Okay, so basically, it talks about attitude, competency, ability. We give an overall rating, got 100, different things to look at that as far as different algorithms. And they're doing good there. They take the assessment properly. We do a DISC profile, which shows their personality. We have a predictive DISC profile, which says, okay, in order to be a good plumber or a good whatever, you need to have these kind of traits. And so for this job, organization attention to detail doesn't matter much, even though he's doing well, but reliability matters. So the gray lines are where they need to be to succeed at this position. Mm-hmm. So we know they have the right personality in thousands of these things to make sure they're going to succeed as a plumber or as a salesperson or whatever they need to do, because we can predict whether they can do a good job or not by giving this assessment. Then we do something which is really cool. This is integrity and attitude. This is who they are as a human being. This is stuff you cannot fix. And so it talks about critical, negative, blame, dishonesty. I'll give you, you can click on any of the gray bars in this, Tyler, and it'll show you what it is not, and then it has a question for going deeper. I'm going to ask you this question. This is for you, Tyler. So how important is to support your boss? Hopefully you'll say it is. Hypothetical situation. Let's say your boss asks you to tell the customer the product will be delivered in 2 weeks. You know it's 4 weeks. The boss knows it's 4 weeks. What are you going to do? You're going to lie and support your boss. You're going to tell the truth.
I would opt for honesty. I'd tell the truth.
Right.
I'm assuming a good employee.
But see, what happens is it's good because somebody will lie for their boss or lie other times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it tells you they have circumstantial ethics, which you need to know, right? And then we go to, things like competency summary, emotional summary, general competency, things like overall people stuff they did well, people traits, they did well the people traits, logic traits, the guy's really smart, discernment, conclusion, again, he's over the gray lines where he needs to be in this position. Then we do things like attention to detail, if it's a bookkeeper or something like that. His attention to detail is fine. So by the time this is over, I pretty much know whether the person has the right personality, intelligence, drive, and initiative to succeed at this position. That's why 95% of the people we hire work out.
So
some things I can't ask.
Would you do an interview? Like, let's say does all this assessment happen before interview or after?
Yes, before.
Okay, just want to be sure.
Then the next one is, okay, there's some things I can't find from the assessment. Right? But I can find out from a video interview. So I'll show you a sample video interview. This just gives you an idea. With the video interviews are structured for each position in each place, and I highly suggest you do some kind of video interview. And we do it we have a way they can do it on the website, which makes it a lot easier. Literally, we send it out and they do the interview this way. I'll show you this guy's interview, just show an example.
First of all, the main thing for me is having a positive impact to the world. And then, as small as it may be, it's sort of something that I find is very important in the things that I do. And if I'm able to match a person that is looking for a job or looking to do what makes them happy.
So this guy killed it. He works for us. He lives in Bolivia. He's done a great job. Okay. So then you've got the video interview. And then the next thing you do after the video interview is you do like some kind of a real person interview, whatever. But that allows you to find out who that person is before you even talk to them. So now you've written a great job ad, you've posted it everywhere, you've responded in real time, you've got a detailed assessment, you've done a screening video interview, then you do an in-person interview, then you do background checks to make sure that we do all the background checks, make sure they're good, and that we do all that. And then also you got to do reference checks. So once you've got all that done, then you make a competitive job offer, and then you do a good onboarding process. So you need to do all that stuff. Now we do it for $1,500 a month. We have 5 people on your team to do it. If you can do it and you're on cheaper than that, hey, go for it, guys or ladies. Have fun.
Well, that's the thing that I keep thinking about is just how much time you're saving, at least an owner, especially. So $1,500 a month, but is there ever a time that somebody shouldn't do this in-depth, depending on where they are in their company growth?
Only if you want crappy employees.
Yeah,
that's my French, but this is what people go, the average in the industry is like 50% people stay. Why?
Bad hires.
They don't know how to hire people. They're bad. They don't do all this stuff. It took me a while. That's why we have 5 people on the team. That's why we do this process. So if you as a plumbing company, you're willing to do all this stuff and do it on your own, it will work. If you don't want to do it, do it for you. But you can't run anything. You can't write a crappy ad that doesn't work. You won't attract the right people. You have to post it everywhere. You just can't post a job description on Indeed and call the guy a week later and expect it to work. You got to respond in real time. You can't like wait a week to call the guy. You got to call him back the minute he applies. They're going apply on Indeed. You got to get back to them in real time. They got a very low shelf life. You've got to do a detailed assessment because you won't know who in the hell they are unless you do an assessment. You've got to do an interview because anything you can't find in the assessment, you'll find out on the interview. You have to do both. Then you've got an in-person Zoom meeting and you got to do background checks. If you skip any of these things, you are risking hiring the world's worst employee who's not bad enough to fire, good enough to keep, and they'll kill an organization.
Yeah. Well, okay, so those are the steps you think people should take. And so you're seeing people not do that, I imagine, right? And how often do you see people just hitting their head against the wall and like it's the same mistake every time?
That's what happens. People think they can do that on their own. They think, oh, I can do this. The typical guy or lady they'll put an ad in Indeed or wherever, Monster someplace, right? They'll see the applicants come in, and then they'll call them back a day later, 2 days later, right? The ones they liked. And then they're lucky they'll do an interview. And that's why only half the people work out. Their system sucks.
The way I've always kind of looked at recruiting as just another form of marketing. And what's interesting is this goes way deeper than that, right? Like, I really like how you mentioned the speed to lead, basically, right?
Right.
So interested? All right, we're going to try and gobble them up because that person's in exploratory mode. They're probably applying for a bunch of different things.
Right. It's no different from somebody going down Google looking for a plumber and going, if you don't answer the phone, you're in trouble.
So what do you recommend? Like, because you mentioned the hiring, like always be hiring, which I agree with that because you never know when you're going to need a person. Why wait to prime them, right? It's the same thing when we're trying to get people like new customers.
You should have a bench. What sports team doesn't recruit all the time?
Yeah.
And you're only as good as your team. And I think what happens is owners of businesses take their team for granted. Their nephew joined, their friend joined, they get smaller. And, I'll use you call it the Walmart example, but what will happen is somebody in a downtown, whatever, drugstore or something will say, there's no good kids in this community. I can't find anybody to work for me. And the people in downtown are complaining. There's nobody out there. It's just not working. Some guy builds somebody builds a Walmart. It's 2 miles out of town. Somebody come with 500 employees that work. Where do they come from?
Yeah. So when they're always hiring, what do they do with the interested parties when they currently are?
They build a bench.
Okay. A database of people who are interested.
Well, they can say, look, we don't have anything now, but you look great. We'll bring you on when we have time. But they at least build a bench, right? It's just like if you're looking for somebody who needs plumbing, they may not want to replace their bathroom today, but they may want to do it a month from now, right?
Yeah.
So you don't let it die. You keep in touch with them. The same kind of thing this. If you have a bench for people, it avoids things like, I call it hire by blackmail. I mean, we've all had, a lot of people listen to this podcast will have somebody that came into them, a plumber comes up and says, to their boss, John, it's not me, it's my wife. I really need to make $5 more an hour. And I know it's because my wife just talked to a friend of mine that works for ABC Plumbing, and they get $5 more an hour than I do. And so I really need an ask for a raise. Not me, but if I don't get $5 an hour, I'm going to have to go to work for the other guy. How fun is that?
Yeah.
And then the problem is, if you give in, then what does that tell everybody else in the company? How do I get a raise in this company? I threaten the owner.
Yeah, which is not necessarily the way you want your employees to go.
Isn't the way you want your employees to work. The answer to that is great. Go work someplace else. I've got somebody who takes your job. He's better and cheaper than you are anyway. So have a good day.
So how long do you might not have a benchmark for this, but how long do you think somebody stays in exploratory mode where they're looking for a job? How long do you feel like you have a chance to snatch them up?
It depends on how their boss treated them that day.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're always looking, because if you don't have, especially plumbers or skilled labor, that kind of stuff, you don't know the day that one of the best plumbers that works for a competition got pissed off at his boss because he didn't treat him well that day or whatever. and is looking and decides, heck, I'm going to go to Indeed today. And he looks. If you're not there, you're not going to get him.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You're waiting for them to enter the frame of mind. And that's a trigger. It just happens. It's just
right. And you never know that day, so you're always looking, because everybody has a bottom 10% of their team.
Yeah. This reminds me, I heard from a car salesman, so grain of salt. But he told me once, or rather this quote was attributed to him. I heard it from somebody related to him. It was like, why do you advertise every day? In this case, it would be for recruiting. Why do you advertise every day? Because you never know when somebody's going to wake up and decide to buy a car.
Right. You never know the day when Mr. Wonderful or Mrs. Wonderful, the best plumber in your town, is going to decide, hey, I've had it with my company. They don't treat me well, whatever, and go to Indeed and look. Unless you're there, they're not going to know it.
Yeah. Well,
I got a question for you. What's more important for a plumbing company than the quality of their team?
Nothing, because that affects everything. So, I mean, it's business 101. If you don't have a good team, you're not going to have a good business.
And the question is, you work with a lot of plumbers. What percentage of resources do the plumbing companies put into recruiting versus marketing versus other kinds of things, or versus equipment?
They put a lot of resources into equipment and their vans and things like that, because that's what they touch. Those are the tangible things that they're used to have. Marketing might come next. A lot of people just rely on word of mouth for a long time. But I can tell you, none of them run through with the process that you outlined here. Like I have not yet heard of a plumber doing it to that degree. I have an agency space because I've seen
and what's important is I think that this is a sort of off subject a little bit. I think this is how AI is going to affect plumbing, right? What's going to happen is artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is disrupting a lot of industries like movie theaters, doctors. Anybody who's selling information for money is going to be disrupted by AI, because it's going to way better, faster, and cheaper, and they're going to do it. What's left? Trades, plumbers, electricians. AI is not going to fix your plumbing. It's going to be way down the time before it can do that. So you've got hundreds of millions of dollars just looking for someplace to go. And I talked to a guy the other day. I'll use roofing as an example. He had, pick a number, 10, 15 million bucks. He said, I'm going to start a roofing company in Kansas. Never done roofing before in my life. He said, why? He goes, well, first place, I understand marketing. I'm really good at it. I understand recruiting. I'm really good at it. I can go into Nebraska and own the roofing market in 3 years, because the guys that are in there are old. They don't know what they're doing. They haven't got a clue how to marketing. They don't know how to recruit. It's a Walmart syndrome. I'm going to go just do it better, better, and cheaper than anybody else, because I know how to run a business. And they'll end up, either rolling up the companies that are there that are plumbing, or they'll put them out of business. But we can't avoid it. You can't put your head in the sand these days. It's disrupting the entire industry.
The genie's not going back in the bottle. It's not like we're getting rid of the internet, right?
So what happens is this is going to affect all the plumbers in the country, because they're going to have to compete with people that are good at recruiting, that are good at marketing, and they know what the heck they're doing. And you just can't do a good job and wait for the phone to ring and hire your friends.
Yeah, that is the slowest way to grow. So, all right. Well, do me a favor. Tell me how people can find out more about you, contact you, so that way.
Okay. Well, they can go to contractorstaffingsource.com and book an appointment with me. I'll be happy to talk to them. I'll show them how to do it yourself. It took me 5 years to figure this out, and I'll be happy to show it to themselves. If they want us to do it, it's $1,500 what they sign up for a year, and I'll do it for them. But if you can't find quality people and you're having a problem, my email is paul@paulsanneman.com. My phone number is 415-599-9006. I live in Hawaii, so keep it an eye at a time. But it's a huge issue. And I've been in this industry for 40 years. And I think it's never bigger than now, because now you've got all this capital coming in, and you can't get by with being mediocre in marketing and recruiting. You're going to get eaten.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing it on the marketing side. There's a lot of dollars being put into a lot of platforms to command and take the air out of the room. I think the same thing's going to happen in recruiting. Right. So, well, I'll wrap this up. Thanks a bunch, Paul. I appreciate
You're welcome.
the insight into this. And so we'll have in the notes wherever this episode ends up a link to your website as well, so that way people can find it really easily. But thanks for tearing a hole in the veil of recruiting.